podcast today. I have Deb Krier on, and I was just talking with her about her website. And if you haven't seen it or checked it out, it's trying not to die dot live.
Live. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, I got it right. Because we're living, and that's what we're doing today. We are here to be inspired and have hope from Deb. And I am so grateful to have you today on my podcast. So thank you so much for coming and being here.
Well, thank you. And I am so honored and I am so grateful to be your guest. I was listening to and watching some of your other episodes and just absolutely fantastic. I was thinking, whoa, this is so
Oh, this
interesting.
is awesome. All right. So I was just learning. I knew that Deb had breast cancer,
Mhm.
but what I didn't know is that Deb had also melanoma. Is
Um,
that basal?
Basal cell carcinoma. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
And thyroid cancer.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
look at her. She
Three.
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 Oh my gosh. Okay. So tell us about your passion. I mean, is cancer somehow related to your passion, or tell us about your passion and
It
who you
is.
are? Mhm.
Well, it is one of those weird stories that you kind of wish you didn't have, right?
Mhm.
Um, my journey has been very bumpy, to say the very least.
Mhm. Mhm.
I had a little surgical procedure last week to remove my port. I had a port in my
Oh,
shoulder for 9 years, and we got it out
whoa.
last week. So yay,
Wow,
whippity skippy. That
congratulations.
was surgery number 35
Whoa,
in
okay.
9 years.
Wow.
And there were multiple times where almost died, all
Uh-huh.
sorts of things. And but obviously I ignored them when they would say, you're not going to make this.
Oh,
But
okay.
um and but a friend of mine said, you need to help others. And
Yes.
and I am that type of person. What can I
Yeah.
get for you? Hey Gina, how can
Uh-huh.
I help you today? All
Uh-huh.
those things.
Mhm.
And so I did turn this into a passion project to
Okay.
help people, who are
Uh-huh.
on this journey.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And so is that how you started your website, or why you started your
I
website?
did.
And tell us about that. Like
Mhm.
what's on your website? What can we find there to help us with resources and things?
Cool. Well, we started it.
Mhm.
And my business coach, Kathleen
Oh,
Caldwell, had
mhm.
said you need to do this.
Okay.
And so when I really started thinking about it, I thought, okay, because I design websites, I am a marketing person. I do all of those things, and I thought, I would be the cobbler's kids. If I did it myself,
Yeah.
I either wouldn't do it at all, right?
Uh-huh.
Or I would just do kind of yeah. And so when I decided I was going to do this, I sunk the money into it. And the first thing
Okay.
that I did was I hired the fabulous Josh Zeppas, who developed the whole brand identity of,
Oh.
what was our story? What were we
Uh-huh.
going to do? I
Okay.
hired a fabulous student, a graphic design student, to design the logo, which is a warrior.
Whoa, I like
And then
that.
I did hire someone to design the website. And that was
Okay.
so funny because I told her, "Here's my vision." And she, and it was, and I was real detailed. I mean, I had a real clear
Yeah.
picture in my mind. And
Uh-huh.
what she came back with was totally different. And
Oh.
my first thought was, but that's not what I asked for. And then the smart
Yeah.
brain kicked in and went, but this is so much better.
Oh,
And
that's
so that was,
beautiful.
that was what was it. But yeah, we started with trying not to die
Uh-huh.
as part of it, because we get so caught up in this, whether we have cancer, whether we have, whatever it is, where we're very ill, or the outcome is going to be long term, things like that. We get so caught up in trying to not die that we forget that we have to live, and we have to live our life. Maybe it's 5 days, maybe it's 50 years. I mean, who knows what that is? But how are you going to get through that time period? And so that's kind of where we came up with that, was trying not to die, live, is, how can we do that? And so our goal is to help anyone who is on this cancer journey, whether they have cancer themselves or they know someone and support someone. So it could be, a loved one, it could be a coworker. These might be our, I also work a lot with our medical people on
Mm.
how to make this a better journey for everybody, them and us. And so we've got a lot of resources. We're always adding resources, and part of that is because I'm guilty of this. And the funny thing is I worked for an oncologist and I worked for the American Cancer Society. So I tell people I know just enough to be dangerous. And when I got my initial diagnosis back in 2015, I Googled it, right? I went to Dr. Google, and which don't do that, people. That's one of the worst things you can do because all it does is freak you out. But you need to go to trusted resources, whether you're choosing traditional approaches, which is what I did, or if you're doing something that is a little bit more um, Eastern medicine, whatever the philosophy is, or a combination of, just make sure that wherever you're looking is a good resource. So we do try and have that. We have blog posts on there that are, kind of my thoughts, and I have guest bloggers. And then, of course, we post our podcasts that we have been on so that people can find those, because I always want to make sure that people see those and see that. And then we do have a couple products and things that we sell. One of the things we sell is a bear hug care package. And
Aw.
it's this little, let me get this here for the people who are
Aw.
watching. Isn't that
I
just the
like
cutest little bear?
that. Can meet
Um,
Nugget. You see our mascot? It's over there.
yes,
Yeah, they
yes,
can meet
our
each
bears will love each
other.
other. Yes.
Yes.
And the thought process is
Mhm.
we always feel very alone when we are going through something like this. And sometimes
Mm.
that's our own doing, right? We don't want to whine, we don't want to let people in, whatever it is. But the little bear is something you send to somebody else, and there's other things that go along with it. But then they know they're not alone.
Mm.
And at one point I was in the hospital for over 7 weeks, in and out
Wow.
of ICU, in and out of surgery. And I had several friends who sent me little stuffed animals. And those little stuffed animals were with me everywhere I went, except surgery. They wouldn't let me take them into surgery, right? But I knew that people had been thinking about me. And so they were just with me the whole time. And that was our thought process was, how can we show people that we care about them when we can't always be there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important. And, I want to hear your perspective on living. Like, what keeps you
Mhm.
happy in living when you've been through so many hurdles? I mean, the thing is, like, not only going through one cancer, but three, and like going through all these surgeries, and you're smiling. How, where's that come from?
Well, I am kind of a naturally happy little person, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very chatty. I've never met a tree that I didn't like and have a
Yeah. Well, that's
conversation.
good. Trees have very
Trees
good
have
neuroscience.
personalities.
Yes, and they're good for your
Yes,
brain. So
I
just know
know.
that.
And
Yeah.
and sometimes you need
Mhm.
to just go and lean against them, right? And soak up
They
their
make you
energy,
feel
right?
better. They actually do. There's
Yeah.
research.
Yes.
There's
Oh,
tons of
yeah,
neural
and
research.
of
Yes.
course, the fresh air and all of that,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
always good for you. But yeah, I mean, I can talk to a lamppost, I can talk to a tree, I can talk to any person, right?
yeah.
And so I've just always been like that. And it was so funny because when they told me my initial diagnosis, I literally looked at my doctor and said, "I'm sorry, I don't have time for this." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Excuse me." And it's funny because, I have a lot of doctors because I've had a lot of different things that
Okay.
have happened. And
Yeah.
sometimes they don't get me. They don't get my sense of humor. Now, I know when I need to be appropriate, and things like
Yeah.
that. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, I try and have fun with it. I especially try and make them laugh, right?
Yeah.
Because they have
Mhm.
such a serious job, and can I make them laugh? I was
Mm.
making them laugh last week in surgery. I was actually awake. They just covered up my
Oh.
face so I couldn't see what was going on. That was very strange. And at one point, I
Yeah.
did tell them, you're going to regret that you didn't knock me out. um, but they were playing Christmas music, and they had me in this position,
Aw.
and they said, "Now you don't move. You do not move because
Right.
they're dealing with
Yeah.
this thing that goes into my heart." And so of course the Charlie Brown theme song comes on, right? The
Oh,
da da
yeah.
da 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 da, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, everybody dance.
Yeah.
And I can move my foot, and I have no idea
Oh.
if they dance too. But
Yeah.
and I did say, "Are you dancing? Are you dancing?"
Aw, yeah, making
Um,
people laugh. Is this
yeah,
okay? So I often ask people that come on my show, like, "This is something you learned?" It sounds like this is just you.
it's
Is
just
there
me.
something? So like when you found out you had breast cancer for the first time, I mean,
Annoyed.
you were annoyed. There was anything. So how did you get through that mindset? So if there's something that you could share, How did you get through that? Or not? I mean, it's all you always have
Oh,
hurdles.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and with every diagnosis, I've been annoyed, and it was funny because when they called to tell me that I had thyroid cancer, I saw that the caller ID was my doctor.
Oh,
They don't call you if it's good
right.
news,
Right. They have an odd right,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
and so I answered, and she said, "Yeah, it's the technical diagnosis, papillary thyroid cancer." And I said,
Oh,
"Oh, words that you can't say on air."
yes. Yes,
And
absolutely.
yes, and she laughed and she said,
Uh-huh.
"That's why you will get through this." And
Oh,
but
interesting.
I think that's a big part of it was I just always thought, well, I have to get through this. And
Yeah.
I was raised like that.
Mhm.
You know, you don't say, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And there are times where you do, right? We
Mhm.
can't always do it. But yeah, I remember, and it's almost like there was no option,
Hmm.
no.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. So what's
Mhm.
next?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I just said this to one of my colleagues. Someone says you can't do something, it gets that fire inside of you. So
Right.
yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yes, we
This
can.
red hair might be
Absolutely.
enhanced, but it ain't
Yes,
still red.
I love that. I love that. So, what does winning mean to you then?
Now this is gonna sound kind of funny, and I tell people this, but
Yeah.
sometimes I tell them I didn't wake up looking up at 6 feet of dirt.
Oh.
Um, you know,
Mhm.
and and then it really is getting through the day, because there are definite challenges. One of the things that happened, I went into septic shock. People don't
Mm.
survive septic shock. I think the stat
Wow.
is about 75% do not make it.
Right.
And it did a number on my kidneys. At some point, we're probably going to have to deal with that. But and there were just all these times, and I really did, just and there are chronic issues. I mean, chronic pain is probably
Mm.
the biggest thing.
Mm.
And so, a big part of winning is I made it through the day. I made
Yeah.
it through the day, or I made it through that hour, or I made it through that Zoom, or whatever it is.
Yes.
I just kept going.
Wow. That's so powerful. And it actually leads into this idea because there's so many times and so many people that say they've lost their passion,
Mhm,
right? They've lost their
mhm,
passion
right.
and they don't really have anything to think they want to get up for. So the fact that you feel like you're living on this borrowed time, like every day is like an
Mhm, mhm.
opportunity. What would you tell that person that's struggling and having a hard time to find their passion?
You know, I would tell them, take a breath. Take a lot of
Mm.
breaths if you need to. And reach out, ask for help. One of the strongest things somebody can do is to reach out and ask for
Mm.
help. Whether
Mm.
it's your friend, clergy, therapist, whoever it is, reach out. And I have had people who have told me that they just, especially going through treatment over and over and over again, they've
Mm.
said, I can't do anymore. And I tell them, well, maybe not. I mean,
Mm.
and if that's the decision you're going to make, then make it. And then the practical Polly in me comes out and says, "Have you done all the things that you're supposed to have done?" Right? And but yeah, sometimes it is just okay, we need to stop but ask for help. Get people there to that are going to give you the hug, that are going to say keep going, whatever it is, and realize that it happens to everybody.
Mm.
No matter
Yeah,
what, there are times where we're like, I just can't do this. I cannot do this. And
right.
how do you kind of take and it's like when I hear people who are like long distance runners and
Oh,
they say,
mm.
I found that next gear. I'm like, I don't know how
Yeah,
you do that.
it's somewhere inside of you. It's
Yeah.
that
Mhm, mhm,
courage,
right.
you have to have that
Mhm,
courage and that
mhm,
grit to
mhm,
to get up the next
right.
day and live.
Mhm, right,
Right? And live
right.
and do it.
Mhm.
And Kevin Smith was on my podcast last week.
Yes, I listened to it. Mhm,
Oh, I love that. Kevin is a gem. He
mhm,
is the
mhm,
worldwide kindness ambassador, and
mhm,
he is
mhm,
spreading kindness everywhere, and
mhm,
I just adore him. But he asked me this question
mhm,
when he looked at your profile. He's like, "Oh my goodness, like all the adversity that you have faced and all the hurdles that you faced, how do you see the good, and how do you stay positive even though you're going through chemo, even though you just had surgery last week? Like, how do you do that?
I think one of the things is you have to admit that sometimes it's not good. Sometimes life just sucks.
Yeah.
And then giving ourselves the grace to feel that and accept it.
Mhm.
And it's normal, and so it's okay to do that. And then to say, okay, now I'm going to move on. It's about who are you surrounding yourself with, what types of television programs, what books. I mean, any of that. I'm on social media quite a bit. I actually do that for my business,
Mhm.
and the key there is keep scrolling. You don't
Yeah.
have to read all of that. And if there are toxic people in your life, bid them farewell.
Yes.
And then really look and see what is the good in a situation, or even better, what's funny in the
Yeah.
situation. And I think that's just kind of one of the fun things is what can you find in it that was funny? I mean, I'm having surgery and I'm telling people to dance, right?
Yeah.
And so how can you make it into something that is more humorous?
Yeah, finding the light in moments, I mean, can be
Mhm,
challenging, but you just have to find them. You have to find
mhm.
the sparks of hope, and that's
Right.
what our mascots,
Mhm,
Nugget's about, hope and
mhm,
love and learning. And
mhm.
I love
Right.
that you have a bear that gives hugs,
Yes.
because we all need them, and
Mhm,
it doesn't matter
mhm.
who you are. And just
Right.
know, if you're in that spot, there are different ways to
Mhm,
stay positive and
mhm,
see the good.
mhm,
Next week, I have a special guest too. So I have a guest that was a driver and now is an
mhm,
inspiring driver manager.
mhm,
His name is
mhm,
Napol Takaram, and he's going to come on my podcast. And he is a leader. If you look at his social media,
mhm, mhm,
he posts about passion and having empathy for
mhm,
everyone he works with. So,
mhm.
what's a question that we could stump him on or ask him about next week? What are you interested in? And we can ask him.
When I was looking at his information, I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, he is in an industry where people that they're working with are often cranky,
Oh,
angry, and just
cranky.
yeah, and just downright nasty, right? And so how then do he is working with other drivers, so how does he tell them how do you deal with that? Because you don't want to be cranky, nasty back. And so
Oh,
how do you have that empathy and compassion for others when maybe things aren't going well? Uh, you
yeah.
know.
Well, I know this because we work with truck drivers,
Mhm.
and they are under, I mean,
Oh.
everything
Mhm,
everything that we do and get in
mhm,
our lives is from
mhm,
a truck driver. So we
mhm.
give them
Right.
so much grace and so
Yes.
much kindness and love
Mhm,
because they're under so much
mhm.
stress. So I would love to hear from him next week, how
Mhm.
he builds that empathy with
Right.
everyone.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful. Deb,
Yeah.
leave us today with some inspiring words. Let us know. Send us off into the rest. This is Friday
Mhm.
Junior. So send us off into the week with some goodness and tell everyone where they can find you, and leave us with some lasting words.
Great. Well, first of all, again, thank you so much. This has been an
Yes.
absolute delight and having so much fun chatting with you. Um, what I tell people is when you're in this situation, you are the person in charge.
Mm.
Not your doctors, not your spouse, not whoever. You are in charge and you need to be your own advocate. Don't expect that everybody's going to take care of it for you. You need to do it. You need to take charge. And if for some reason you're not able to, then you need to have an advocate who does, know what you want and things like that. There's that saying, we're not given anything that we can't handle. It
Mm.
sounds trite, but I think that is true. And so how are we going to handle it? Sometimes we handle it with tears. Sometimes we handle it with laughter. Sometimes we handle it by naming our prosthetic bosoms. You know?
Yeah. Right.
And so it's all in your outlook. How are you going to get through the day? And more importantly, how are you going to show people that you love them?
I love that. And we'll leave you with that today. As you move through the week and the rest of the weekend, look around and show people that you love them. Thank you, Deb, so much. Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
The easy way is to go to the website. So www.tryingnottoDie.live, Live. You can also find me on all the, on social. I'm not on everything because I am the kid with bright, shiny objects and I'd be watching cat videos forever. So I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Just look for my name. I am the only redheaded Deb Krier that you will find.
All right. Well, with that, everyone, have a great rest of the week. Thanks